Are you guys ready for one of my hottest hot take tier lists yet? What's good, peasants? Jamie back here today, and you know what we're doing. This is the tier list post Inteleon / post recent patch. I think most things in this game are in a fairly decent spot, but it's always fun to go through and see where some people think things stand in the current state of the game. So that's what we are going to be doing here today. Now, as always with any tier list, this is just my personal opinion, so if you happen to disagree with something, that's fine. You can win and do well with really any Pokemon in the game, but this is just where I think characters line up compared to each other in the current power level / power creep of the game, if you want to look at it that way. And also, this is going to be mostly focused on solo, duo, trio play, as that is what I play the most of, but I do follow the professional scene in this game pretty well. So when something needs to be mentioned in terms of tournament meta and how good something is outside of just your solo duo play, then I will mention that when it is necessary. But other than that, it's mostly going to be focused on, like I said, just your average solo queue game. So let's go ahead and hop right in. So starting off with our tiers, we have our better than the best tier, which is where we're going to put what I think is the best Pokemon in the game. We have our simply the best tier, which is the S tier. We have almost the best, which is our A tier. We have our Thanos tier, which is perfectly balanced as all things should be. This is typically just our B tier, but I decided to go ahead and move it down and demote it to the A- / B+ range. We have Capri Sun as the best tier. It's going to be like our C / B tier. And then our D tier is going to be our don't tier, which is just the characters that I think are most in need of a buff, not necessarily the worst. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start off with Speedsters, one of the smaller groups of characters in the game. So it should be pretty easy to breeze through. Our first speedster is going to be Gengar, and I think Gengar is in a pretty fine place. It's a good Pokemon when you get a level lead and when you're super ahead, but if you're, behind in levels on Gengar, it can be an absolute chore to play. But it's still very good against, very bulky team comps. It's also just really good at deleting squishies, depending on which build you play. So I think Gengar is in a fine place, which, like I said, C tier is, like, these characters are fine, but could use a little bit of something. There's just something about these characters that just doesn't feel great. So I'm going to put Gengar in C tier. One of the main things with it is it's just a two-stage evolution. You have to evolve twice. And just with the way the game is, with so many characters hitting their power spikes earlier and earlier, it's just kind of rough for a character that can get level kept twice. So yeah, that's the main thing I think is working against Gengar, specifically in lane, which for some reason a lot of people play it in lane in my games. So oftentimes we're having a Haunter at like 5.5 minutes left, which is never what you want to see. Next up is Absol. I think Absol is a step above Gengar, specifically for the thing I just mentioned. Absol is never gatekept. It's a demon early, very, very strong, really good at diving backlines. It's just there are other species that do that job way, way, way better. Does fall off late game, has a good, not great Unite move. Pursuit is one of the most easily counterable moves in the game. But yeah, still very solid. You can definitely win and do well with this Pokemon. All right, so let's talk about it. This is yeah, this I hate this Pokemon. Talonflame is D tier. Funnily enough, it does get some play in tournaments. Like a few teams did run it in AIC, but let me go ahead and show you guys something real quick. Here's the pick and win rates from the North American Championships for Pokemon Unite, and if we scroll down a little bit, Talonflame did get a little bit of play from 4% of games, did not win a single map. So yeah, I think that's about what you would expect from Talonflame. But yeah, this character is terrible. Just go look at my Twitter recently. I've made it my mission to just slander this Pokemon as much as possible, because no one who plays this Pokemon knows how to do it. It's the worst played Pokemon in the game. All people do is just avoid enemies with fly and try to score. Like that is all any solo queue Talonflame does. Every single one of them. I have not seen a Talonflame land a fly on a squishy in 6 years, it feels like. So until the player base gets better, until this character gets some sort of damage buff to feel a little bit more viable in team fights, I'm sorry, this character is just plain bad. And I think it has to be considered one of the worst Pokemon in the game. All right, this next Pokemon I'm actually super excited to talk about. And if you've been a frequent viewer of my tier list, you know exactly the take I've had on this Pokemon for so long, and that is Zeraora. And Zeraora is going straight to the C tier with a bullet. I know most people put it in the D tier, but I think most people are crazy. This character has never been as bad as people claim it to be. I don't think it was ever the worst Pokemon in the game. Yes, it needed some love, and it is getting it in a major way. They are finally changing this character's level up curve in a future patch. Allegedly, things could change. They could decide that they don't want to break the game, which is exactly what this character is going to do when it does get its level up move changed to 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, like everyone else in the game. So yeah, this character is going to be an absolute problem, but for now, it's only okay. But dude, discharge at level 7 with a 6-second cooldown is going to absolutely break the game. You heard it here first. It's going to be one of the best Pokemon in the game if that patch goes through and discharge doesn't get a damage nerf. I'm telling you right now, it is going to be broken, but I am totally vindicated in saying that they needed to, if they were to ever change the level up curve, they needed to nerf Wild Charge. I've been saying forever that was one of the most overpowered moves in the game, and they finally changed the level up moves, and what do? They nerfed the hell out of Wild Charge. So, just saying, I've been saying this for how many tier lists? Go back and watch any and all of them. Said the same thing about Zeraora and most of them, and they finally changed it, and guess what? I was freaking right the whole time, and I'm gonna brag about it because god damn it, I was freaking right. Okay, moving on to Dodrio up next. I think Dodrio is firmly in the A tier. It's borderline S for me, but I think another speedster just edges it out. Spoiler alert. But yeah, Dodrio is very good. Incredibly strong early and all throughout the game. Drill Peck is great. Tri Attack is great. One of the better, or pretty good Unite move as well. Very good in lane. Solid jungler. The problem with Dodrio is the same thing it's always been. Everything in the game counters it. Like anything that can stop its sprint gauge, even red buff, just like a basic auto attack can completely shut down this Pokemon. And if your team is good enough, like you'll completely ruin a Dodrio. And yeah, it does suffer from Talonflame syndrome a little bit, but there are some very good Dodrios. I think it's an incredible Pokemon with a very high skill cap. And like a good Dodrio will absolutely dominate a backline and completely terrorize the game. But like I said, I do think there is another speedster who does something very similar, and I think another speedster who does something like that but better. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one, and that is going to be Scyther. I think Scyther's nope, that's not Scyther, that's Mew. We'll get to you in a little bit, Mew. No one wants to talk to you about you right now, but Scyther, it's basically a speedster, and this tier list has it classified as such. We'll go ahead and talk about it here. I'm gonna put it in the same tier as Absol, and that has a very good Unite move. I think it's a little bit better late game than Absol, but it does struggle some early. It's not the most you know, competent team fighter. It doesn't like have the same sort of burst that it used to a few patches ago before it got a damage nerf. So I think Scyther is very strong, really good Unite move, can still delete a squish, you can still bully a Decidueye. It is one of the top tier Decidueye bulliers in the game, but I think it's okay. It could be better, it could be worse. I think it's, you know, solidly in the middle. Can brawl a little bit, so because it is, you know, a derivative of an all-arounder, as most speedsters are, to be fair. But yeah, I think Scyther is fine. And you know what? We're actually going to go ahead and skip the other guy, and let's talk about Leafeon first. I think Leafeon is also an A tier character. It's another character that is borderline S for me, but the thing I have against Leafeon is that it does just feel super glass cannon-y, and its Unite move is absolutely dominant and just does insane damage. Like, you talk about Decidueye bullying, Leafeon Unite move might be the best Decidueye bully move in the entire game, but it also bullies most all-arounders, most supporters, and quite a few defenders as well. Leafeon Unite move is insane. Razor Leaf is insane. Leaf Blade is insane. Solar Blade's okay. Aerial Ace obviously garbage, but I think Leafeon all in all is a very strong Pokemon. So I think it belongs in the A tier. Like I said, borderline S tier. If you had to ask me, I would probably nudge it slightly above Dodrio, but Dodrio does seem more competitive play. Obviously, Leafeon was banned out, but I do think Leafeon would have seen a fair amount of tournament play had it been allowed. So yeah, I think borderline S tier for this guy. And then last, certainly not least, for the speedsters, yeah, it's Zoroark. Zoroark is one of the best Pokemon in the game right now. The problem with Zoroark is it is a very hard Pokemon to pilot, so you typically don't see too many insane Zoroarks in your solo queue games probably, but when you do, trust me, you will know it because this character is absolutely dominant. It is one of the best Pokemon in the game. Just completely destroys any and all backliners, completely destroys any and all squishies. It's very good at getting in and diving a lot of these Slick Spoon mages before they're able to just one-shot you, because, you know, obviously Slick Spoon mages are just as good as Zoroark, if not better in some cases. But yeah, dude, this character is absolutely insane. Great damage. Both of his movesets are extremely viable. Feint Attack is just absolutely insane. And let's just put it this way. I think it was Overlord in the NAIC wanted to play Zoroark pretty much the entire tournament. Is like he talked, I believe he tweeted or talked about it in an interview or something, that he just wanted to play Zoroark on stage. Had it banned against him almost every single game. The one game he finally got to play, he dropped 130k in a pro game, which, if you know anything about professional play in Pokemon Unite, you know, typically in solo queue games, 100k is like the benchmark for you had a really good game. In pro play, if you do around 80 to 90k in a pro game, that is a very good match. This man dropped 130k in a pro game on Zoroark. That tells you all you need to know about how insane, like, high level Zoroark players are. I believe it was 130k. It might have even been higher, but either way, absolutely cracked Pokemon, one of the best in the game right now. Let's move on to, we'll do defenders next, because I want to talk about defenders, because I think defenders might just be the best class in the game overall, and no one plays them, particularly in solo queue. Like, I couldn't tell you the last time I had a defender in my solo queue game that wasn't me, or in my duo queue game that wasn't my duo partner. Like, no one plays defenders. I'm telling you guys, if you want to win, if you want some free elo, play defenders. All of them are pretty damn good to very good. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Starting off with Slowbro, one of the best characters in the game. Absolutely super tanky, has great sustain. All 4 of his moves are extremely valuable. One of the best Unite moves in the game. What's been said about Slowbro what's left to say about Slowbro that hasn't been said already? I'll get the quote out that I was going for in a second eventually, once I figure out how to speak. You know, not a YouTuber or anything, this isn't my job, but yeah, you know, talking not something I do very well, you know, it's kind of like the main thing that pays me at the moment, so maybe I should get better at it, but that's beside the point. Who cares about JB and talking? But yeah, Slowbro, absolute beast. We don't really need to talk about how good it is. Just imagine this game without Slowbro and how much worse some characters would feel, how much more oppressive some characters would feel if Slowbro didn't exist. Okay, next up we have Snorlax, and this is a weird one for me because historically this character has been one of like the top 3 to 5 defenders in pro play, but it's been fairly underwhelming in solo duo play because it's very hard to have an impact on this Pokemon. You really need your teammates to follow up with you to have a great impact on Snorlax, especially you know, Heavy Slam Block or even Heavy Slam Yawn. Flail is an absolute meme, one of the worst builds in the game. Do not play Flail. I could never recommend anyone do that, but yeah, Snorlax, it's a tough one for me, man, because like I said, it's so hard to get a ton of value out of this in uncoordinated play, but in coordinated play it's fairly solid. So I think, you know, it's pretty balanced. I'll put it in A-B+. And moving on to the next defender, we have Crustle. I like Crustle. I just posted a Crustle video today as you guys are watching. This wasn't really a Crustle video, it was more so a look how bad randoms are video, but Crustle's tough, man. I think I have to put it in don't tier if we're considering this more of the B tier than the C tier. Yeah, but let me just go ahead and like put this to like B. Just to remind myself that's like B tier. What is it, like B to C? Yeah. But yeah, if we're doing that, then I think Crustle just has to go in D tier. Unfortunately, it's just kind of terrible. Like, Rock Tomb's okay, X Scissors bad. Like, it's good if it crits, but you know, sometimes it doesn't crit. Stealth Rock is only okay. That's a really good Unite move. That's the best thing Crustle has going for it, but it also suffers from the same problem that Talonflame suffers from, in that people who do play Crustle don't play Crustle well. They just back cap. That's all people who play Crustle do. So yeah, D tier for Crustle, unfortunately. Still, Blastoise, I think Blastoise is easily A tier. It's really more of one of these brawly all-arounder / attacker types than it is a true defender, although Hydro Pump Surf can be played in a defender role in, you know, uncoordinated play if you want to, but in pro play you will only ever see this thing playing Water Spout Rapid Spin and doing tons of damage and playing more of an attacker role or an all-rounder role than anything, because spoiler alert when we get to them, most all-rounders in this game suck right now. There's like 3 to 4 decent ones and 1 really good one. But yeah, dude, Blastoise is great. Great damage, great CC, one of the best Unite moves in the game, easily A tier in my opinion. Mamoswine is like B tier. I think it's like specifically for pro play, it's definitely a step below Snorlax, but I think in solo queue it's probably better than Snorlax just because you can carry a little bit harder with it, you can do a little bit more damage with it. So I do think we can bump it up to like A-B+ area, just because like I said, in solo queue it is better than Snorlax, but in pro play Snorlax is better, so I think they belong in the same tier just based on that. Next up we have Mr. Greedent, and Greedent's a weird one. Again, it's like kind of sort of whatever. Like, you never see this thing played in tournaments anymore, although you used to back when, you know, more 1-1-3 was a thing and you could get away with running, you know, just backline harassers / play this as like an all-arounder type thing. It could do that, but that's not really a thing anymore. I will go ahead and give it B tier, or A-B+, although I do think it is probably closer to B than anything, but I do think it's kind of on par with Snorlax in terms of power level, but it's not as good of a defender. It's more of like an all-arounder / speedster than anything. Obviously we've known this for a while, but yeah, we'll go ahead and give that guy B tier just because it's annoying and I hate it and I know it's good, so we'll put it there. Next up, we have Trevenant. I think Trevenant is firmly an A tier defender. It's borderline S. It's the third pick defender in pro play. Like, one team will get Slowbro, the other team will get Lapras, or if Lapras is banned, one team will get Bro, and then Tree is the next guy up. So yeah, Tree is very, very good in terms of the defender role. Great sustain, great CC, really good Unite move. All of its moves are viable, although Woodhammer is by far the preferred choice to curse these days. And then Pain Split and Horn Leech are really your preference, but I like both of them. Yeah, like, Tree is just unbelievable. Probably my favorite defender. Maybe not, but I do really enjoy it, so we'll go ahead and put it in A tier. I think it's easily the second best pure defender in the game. We'll get to the second best defender in the game, but it's not really a pure defender here in a second. Goodra I think is B tier. Again, great sustain. The only thing keeping Goodra from being higher, the same thing with Mamoswine, and the reason why I might actually bump Mamoswine down, but I do think it is, like, you could talk me into bumping Mamoswine down, I won't do it, is the level up thing, because again, it, like, double evolution, being able to be gate kept twice is a little bit rough for this Pokemon, and any Pokemon, but Goodra, once you get it online, late game is actually really good, has unbelievable sustain. Dragon Pulse is incredible, great healing, really good Unite move. I think Power Whip and Acid Spray are both very playable, although Power Whip is easily the better choice most of the time, but Acid Spray is pretty good. Like, there are a ton of EVs running around, and it's a little bit easier to break passive with that guy. So, you know, maybe try that out, but yeah, really good passive ability for Goodra as well. I think it's a pretty solid B tier Pokemon. And then we do have the, oh wait, no, I forgot about, okay. There are 3 really good defenders left. There are 3 S tier defenders, spoiler. Yeah, Lapras, unbelievable. Had, let's see, maybe the highest ban rate outside of Zoroark in NAIC. And when it did get picked, it was absolutely dominant. It was played more in that attacker / all-arounder role. Look at that, 50% win rate. That's got to be the highest win rate from the tournament. Unless something won like one game. It only appeared in one game, but yeah, Lapras, absolutely dominant. One of the second highest pick rate and by far the highest win rate. That should tell you everything you need to know about how good Lapras is. If this character wasn't banned, it was winning. I mean, it says it only won 50% of the time, but a majority of the time, the team who got Lapras won the game. So yeah, this character is absolutely ridiculous. Unbelievable sustain, unbelievable damage. And it just enables, you know, a character like Slowbro to just not have to worry about being a pure defender or a tree, or, you know, it could just worry about brawling, which is what it does. Like, this character is ridiculous. It's part of the reason, along with something like Blastoise and how good Zoroark is, that just make a lot of all-arounders pretty irrelevant for the most part, especially in solo queue. Like, why would you play freaking Aegislash when you could just play Lapras, which, you know, do the same sort of brawly up-close playstyle and just not die ever? Like, I don't know. It was just an example, but yeah. Moving on to the last defender, that's gonna be Umbreon. Yeah, this character is broken beyond belief. Best sustain in the game. Just ridiculous stuns. This character is getting a much needed nerf soon, and it can't come soon enough because this thing is absolutely broken. And yeah, it's ridiculous. Snarl Foul Play is crazy. Mean Look doesn't really get played, but it's incredibly good. Wish never gets played, but it's also, I think, really good, and it's going to be very good after getting a cooldown nerf. So yeah, like, I believe, again, a 2-second cooldown, or a cooldown buff, yeah, I should say. I believe a 2 seconds cooldown buff, maybe only 1 second. Whatever it is, it's going to be a lot better, and you're going to be able to use it a lot more often. So I don't think Umbreon's going anywhere. I think it's still going to be really good. I don't think it will be the best Pokemon in the game after nerfs, but currently, I think it is one of, if not the absolute best Pokemon in the game. Like, why would you ever play an all-arounder when you could just play Umbreon? Like, again, like, it is the reason that all-arounders are feeling damn near non-existent and irrelevant in the meta. And since we're talking about them so much, let's just go ahead and do all-arounders next. First off, we have Charizard. And for Charizard, I think it belongs in the same sort of area as these guys. It's not a mage. It's a 2-level Evo that needs jungle. It is terrible in lane early. Once you get it online, though, it's pretty good. But yeah, if you're playing in lane, it's going to be really hard to get level 9 at any reasonable time. And if you're jungling, like, there are 17 better junglers that evolve at level 4 and get their best move at level 6 or whatever, while you're still, you know, a freaking Charmeleon. So yeah, this character, I don't know. It's not so much Charizard's fault as it is, you know, Eevee's fault and stuff like that we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, this character is fine, but it's the definition of mid IMO. All right. Let's get into some all-arounders that are actually pretty decent, I think. Starting off with Machamp. Machamp is one of the few all-arounders that did get some decent play in NAIC, I believe, outside of, well, this guy, obviously. Where is Machamp? Yeah, Machamp had a decent pick rate. Didn't really do too well, but I think it's a pretty good solo queue Pokemon for sure. And the thing that's good about Machamp is, even though it is a 3-stage evolution, it's pretty good at all 3 stages. Like, Machop is very good early, Machoke can hold its own, and then Machamp, once you evolve, becomes becomes a very viable Pokemon. Has one of the best Unite moves in the game, really good mobility, great damage all throughout. So I do think Machamp is fairly viable, so I'll put it in the A- B+ range, so that's fine with me. Next up, we have Garchomp, and I think it's fine, kind of in the same range. You could talk me into moving Garchomp down. I think Garchomp is just a little bit stronger late game than Charizard, because I think all Charizard really has going for it is a Unite move that doesn't really do anything to any defenders. The only thing Charizard Unite is really good for is deleting squishies, but most of the squishies being played are EVs, and they all have a passive that can just block your Unite move. So, like, yeah, I don't know. You get the conundrum. But Garchomp has better CC, better sustain, better Unite move if you ask me. So I think Garchomp is just slightly better than Charizard, although I wouldn't be too upset with you if you completely disagree with that take. Lucario, I think Lucario is about to be a lot better after this next patch again, but for now, we'll put it in B- or B to C area. Yeah, I think it's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with Lucario. It's just Urshifu does its job completely better. Like, you want better Secure, play Dark Bear. You want a better E-Speed, play Water Bear. Like, yeah, nothing Lucario does or Shifu doesn't do better. So yeah, it's just it's rough for our dog, but he should be getting his time to shine soon back. But you can definitely still do well with this Pokemon, just like you can do well with Charizard or any of these other guys. Pokemon that you can probably not do so well on most of the time is actually Serena. Serena, I think, is one of the worst Pokemon, if not the worst Pokemon in the entire game at the moment. It's absolutely terrible. Struggles super early. The good thing about it is you only need level 6 to get online, but it's very painful to get to level 6, and you're not even good once you get there. Like, once again, why play this Pokemon when Water or Shifu exists? It's literally just a better version. So I don't know. Poor sustain, really poor bulk. Like, the nerf to this Pokemon a long time ago really hurt it, and it's truly one of, if not the worst Pokemon in the game right now, in my opinion. Next up, we have Dragonite, and I'm going to bump Dragonite up to a tier with the rest of these guys, with Machamp and Garchomp. I think it's one of the better junglers in the game in solo queue. I think it's really good in solo queue. It got played like 2 or 3 times in AIC, did not do well. But I think Hyper Beam is crazy. It's very good in solo queue. You can get away with running Outrage if you want. I wouldn't really recommend it. The attack speed buff and the attack stat buff to this thing have made it, I think, a fairly solid Pokemon. Where in the last couple tier lists we had, it was honestly down here, but where it is now after the boss, I think it's actually pretty solid, pretty damn solid. Aegislash, everything I said about Charizard, same exact thing. Like, struggles early, gets online late. Like, it's just, you know, obviously you evolve at 7 as opposed to 9, but still a rough Pokemon in terms of leveling up. Kind of mid in terms of survivability. Like, it's okay, nothing special, nothing too bad, but there are better all-arounders for what you want out of Aegislash. Azu. Azu's a tough one. You could talk me into putting it up here, but I do think it is also just sort of in this kind of okay range where there's nothing super standout about this Pokemon, but there's nothing incredibly bad about this Pokemon either. The one thing it does have going for it that would consider me having me consider moving it up is the fact that it does evolve at level 4. Like, that is objectively better than a lot of other Pokemon, but it's just kind of, what are you going to do once you evolve to level 4? Just kind of do no damage to a tank? Yeah, you're a good assassin, you're a good backline killer, but, you know, Zoroark exists. You know, all these other speedsters exist, mages exist. Like, it's fine, it's really solid at what it does, but it's nothing special. So it goes there. Buzzwole, I think, is actually one of the good all-arounders in this patch currently, and I think Buzzwole is significantly like a step above the rest of these guys. It's not anything crazy broken, but I do think it's actually fairly good. Has really good like, absolutely dominant early game, can absolutely pop off late game as well. Team YT Fui, one of the best Buzzwole players in the world, had some absolutely insane plays that he had no right winning, like 2v1. You could just get your Unite move off, you could just live forever. You're able to chain your superpowers like crazy late game as well. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Buzzwole. I think it's actually one of the better performing all-arounders in the game. and very worthy of the A tier, in my opinion. Scizor. Scizor is a, oh wait, no. We'll do, well, we already talked about, but I skipped Tyranitar. We'll come back to him in a second. Scizor, it's tough. It's another one you could talk me into being here or here. It's like, if you do manage to get into a game with like an Umbreon, a Trevenant, another Buzzwole, or just some like, basically if you get a game with no spoon abusers, Scizor's actually pretty good. Like very good if you get a game with no spoon abusers. The problem is if you get one spoon user on the other team, Scizor becomes pretty irrelevant. Because a while back they buffed its physical defense but left its special defense alone, and it is just so squishy to any special attacker that will just absolutely shred it. So I think it's probably better than most of these characters depending on matchup, but I'll put it in this area as well. And I think Tyranitar belongs here as well. You could honestly talk me into T-Tar being in D tier, but I think like just the fact that if you can get going and you can get a huge level lead, like T-Tar can still completely carry a game if you again get the right matchup. And like when you look at the characters in D tier, like you can't convince me that Tyranitar isn't better than all three of these Pokemon. So I will give Tyranitar the benefit of the doubt and put it in C tier, but this character is definitely struggling just based on the fact that it takes so long to get online. Like you need jungle on this Pokemon, but there are 700 Pokemon you'd rather have in jungle. So I can't justify putting it too much higher than this, although it is, I think, a little bit underrated, but not too underrated. And then last up for all-arounders, we have Urshifu, and they're both going in S tier. You guys saw it earlier. Had the highest pick rate all of NAIC. Pretty much every team, if it didn't get banned, which it never got banned because you want to ban this, you want to ban this, or you want to ban this. So, or some teams even banned Dodrio. So like, Urshifu was almost always around one pick, and yeah, it's just completely dominant. Whether you want to play Dark Bear or Water Bear in tournament, most teams do play Dark Bear in tournament just because of the secure and the ability to one-shot something with its Unite move button. So like you've all felt the wrath of a level 5 Urshifu gank or Water Bear gank and just died on your tower, died getting dove on your tier 2 even. Like this character is still completely broken and borderline the best character in the game. But yeah, these three characters, well, I guess these two characters, the only thing keeping all around us being honestly pretty terrible. But yeah, Urshifus, both of them very insane. Let's go ahead and move on to supporters, and starting off with Wigglytuff. I think Wiggly, it's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with Wiggly. The problem is you don't really play Wiggly as a support, you play Wiggly as a defender, and look at where all the other defenders are. Wiggly doesn't really compare. Wiggly does have a really good Unite move that shields its teammates, but like it's a humongous shield for everyone in your AoE. But like this character exists, and a lot of spoon mages just shred through shields anyway. So like it's cool, but Rollout's a meme. Seeing is about to get a buff, which I think could be really nice for this Pokemon. But I've long said this, and I think the best thing that devs could do for Wigglytuff is just buff its defense and special defense stat and make it a defender. I think that would be quite all right with me for Wigglytuff. Keep its Unite move, which I think is great, but other than that, I think it could use a little bit of love. Next up, we have Mr. Mime, and I'm gonna put Mr. Mime in a tier above Wigglytuff in Thanos. I think it's just very solid early game. It's a little bit more of a carry, so I think it gets a little bit more of like that boost for me personally, just because like you can carry a game with Wigglytuff or with Mr. Mime if you absolutely have to. Can't really do that with Wiggly. These characters both really play more of a defender role than a supporter role, but Mr. Mime also does have Power Swap, which can heal if you want to run that. But yeah, Confusion's insane. Psychic is playable, has a really good Unite move. So yeah, I think Mr. Mime is worthy of the A tier. Next up, we have Eldegoss. I think we have an easy S tier here. Eldegoss is absolutely insane. It was another character that had a very high pick rate in NAIC. It was one of the go-to supports. If it wasn't Hoopa, it was Eldegoss. If it wasn't Eldegoss, it was probably Blissey. But yeah, pretty much a lot of Eldegoss is getting played. It's a great auto attacker. It's a great lane attacker. It's probably the best supporter in the game, in my opinion, because you can absolutely carry a game with this, and you can offensively, and you can carry a game by keeping your teammates alive because all of its moves are incredible. Really good Unite move, really good basic attacks. Everything about Eldegoss is phenomenal, and you should definitely play it. Like, you can carry with this Pokemon, guys. You can do a lot of damage with this thing. Your team needs a supporter. Play Eldegoss because you could still win the game carrying and also heal your teammates. Like, Eldegoss is insane. Play Eldegoss, please. For the love of God. It's one of the best characters in the game. One of the best solo queue characters in the game, for sure. Play Eldegoss. Oh my gosh. I'm just trying to convince people to play supporters in solo queue, but yeah, Eldegoss is insane. So, it's not the best Pokemon in the game, but it's up there. It's definitely up there. Blissey. We're gonna put Blissey in A tier. I think Blissey has a really, really good Unite move, great healing, good stuns, good everything. I got nothing really bad to say about Blissey. It's just not, you know, as good as Eldegoss or the other S tier supporter, which I'm sure you guys can guess, but it's really solid. Just single target healing is a little bit rough, but it's very good at single target healing. Maybe the best single target healer in the game, probably. Actually, no, that'd be Eldegoss, but Eldegoss can also heal the whole team, so I don't know. Yeah, Blissey's really good. Very good, very, very good. But yeah, Hoopa is also absolutely insane right now. You guys, again, I'm going to keep going back to this. Highest pick rate support in the game. This Pokemon's back in a big way. Hyperspace Hole is ridiculous. If you see a Hyperspace Hole and you're low health, please take the hole. Like, also, another thing worth noting, if you have a Hoopa on your solo queue team, trust them with your life. People who are bold enough to play Hoopa in solo queue are absolutely worthy of your trust, and you're like, oh, hey, this guy is actually really good at the game. Let me play around my supporter. Trust your Hoopas, guys. Trust your Hoopas. I say that as a Hoopa player and someone who, you know, trusts a Hoopa. Like, Hoopa players are the salt of the earth, man. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, Hoopa's insane. One of the best healing moves in the game. Really solid sustain. Really good auto attacks. You can also carry with this Pokemon. Incredible Unite move. The only thing that's even sort of holding Hoopa back is, like I said, sometimes your teammates don't pay attention to your holes. I also forgot, I forgot to talk about the dog. It's still really good. It's not as broken as it used to be, but I just don't want to talk about it, so we're not going to. But yeah, it's still easily S tier. Okay, yeah, but Hoopa's great. Play it. Trust your Hoopas if you have one on your team. Clefable, I think Clefable is borderline S tier. I think it's S tier in solo queue. It didn't really get too much play in AIC, but when it did, like, it was okay. It just heals just astronomical amounts. I think it's the best pure healer in the game that doesn't really do anything else super well. Has a pretty solid Unite move when you get the right one. Like, all of its Unite moves do something good. It's just you're playing a game of RNG whether or not you get one that you actually need. Yeah, I think Clefable fairly solid in terms of just being able to do a little bit of everything. Like, gravity's great. Like, it helps shut down water bear, stuff like Zoroark as well, if you can land a gravity before you die. But yeah, big AoE heal. Moonlight is insane. Love it, love it, love it. All right, Sableye. I think Sableye is somewhere in here. It got a little bit of play. Amaterasu played it a decent amount in JL. Like, I don't think he failed a single invade. I'm pretty sure every single game he played Sableye, he stole one of the buffs, if not both of the buffs. So that's absolutely hilarious. So when it did get played, it got played at a very high level and was successful. But in solo queue, I think it is an absolute detriment and one of the worst Pokemon in the game. So I think splitting the difference between, like, the absolute best Sableye player in the world and terrible solo queue players, I think you can put it on par with Wiggly, especially after the nerfs where it just doesn't do as much damage as it used to. All right, and last up for supporters, we have Comfey. Comfey, you could talk me into putting it up here still, but I think the healing nerfs did actually affect this character quite a bit. But I put it next to Mr. Mime, and I'm like, yeah, no, it's better than Mr. Mime. So we'll go ahead and keep Comfey in A tier. Has still really good stun, still a pretty solid Unite move, can still completely enable these characters to do well and enable these characters to be the most toxic thing in the game. So yeah, Comfey's still very, very solid. All right, moving on to our last role, and that is going to be our attackers. First off, we have Venusaur. Venusaur actually got a pretty solid amount of play. I think it was one of the higher picked attackers outside of, like, the main few. Yeah, pretty decent, not bad in terms of pick rate, 17%. But I think Venusaur is actually one of the better solo queue attackers in the game. It's been one of the better solo queue carries for a long time. So we're going to go ahead, and I think Venusaur is worthy of the A tier. Like I said, it's a great solo queue carry. You can get away with running both builds these days. I think Solar Beam is actually quite viable just because it does so much damage, both to objectives and enemy tanks as well. With Spoon, like, it does just ridiculously good damage. So yeah, you can get away with running that. And also Petal Dance Giga Drain is still really good. Very good Unite move. I think Venusaur is great, but it's just not quite S tier because some of the other characters in this role are absolutely insane. Pikachu, you could talk me into like this range, but I think we'll go ahead and be a little bit conservative with Pikachu. It never really gets played, but when it does get played, like, it's fine. It's played more of a supporter than anything. Like, I actually believe Team YT ran this character with experience share in a few of their qualifier games. So you can get away with that. But it does still have a lot of stuns, a really good Unite move. It's just there are a million characters who do more damage that are just insane. Speaking of, one of the biggest glow-ups in the history of Pokemon Unite, Alola Ninetales was so mid for so long, and then after the recent buff to Blizzard Avalanche, this is one of the best characters in the entire game, one of the best attackers in the entire game. This Pokemon does so much damage. It is an absolutely dominant laner. Only having to evolve at level 4. This is kind of like why I'm talking about when I'm talking about, you know, characters like Gengar and a lot of the all-arounders that we mentioned earlier having to evolve twice and just not being on par with some of the other Pokemon, because a character like Ninetales exists. It's so good at level 4, where at level 4 on Gengar, you're not even through your first stage. Same thing with Charizard or Aegislash. Like, this character is absolutely dominant in lane and just does astronomical damage all throughout the game. Has a really strong Unite move as well. Like, this Pokemon is incredible. Alola Ninetales, like I said, one of the biggest glow ups in the history of Unite with that recent buff. Next up, we have Greninja. And I think Greninja is... it's okay. Like, it's always gonna hover somewhere around here unless it gets a buff. But I don't think it's as good as the other ADCs in solo queue, just because I don't think its A presses are as good. It doesn't have as much range as something like a Cinderace, or as much rip as something like a Duraludon, as much secure as like the Decidueye, has worse mobility than Dragapult. I think it's like, it's still really good, but out of the other physical attacking A pressers, I think it's technically speaking the worst of the four, spoiler alert, which is where we go ahead. And honestly, I think we could just drop these three in just one tier above. They all press A real good. They all have pretty solid mobility. They all have good Unite moves, decent secure. I just think they do their job a little bit better than Greninja. The one thing Greninja has that these guys don't is it has a little bit better execute with Surf. Actually, yeah, you know what? Just based on Surf being able to execute low health targets, we can put it there. Like, they're all fine. You can still hyper carry with these Pokemon. It's just they're nothing special in my opinion. And now the last one of the ADCs, we'll just go ahead and talk about them all in a row, is the Decidueye. I think the Decidueye is a step above because Spirit Shackle is just that good, plain and simple. Like, Spirit Shackle is absolutely insane. So yeah, ridiculous damage, one of the highest scaling damage moves in the game. And whether or not, you know, most people watching this want to believe it, it's actually really good in lane. So yeah, it's also a great jungler, but it's a character that you don't need to give first rotation to. Like, in pro play, it gets played a lot because Spirit Shackle is so good. It's usually like a last pick when you see like a team doesn't have like Zoroark or really any dive. You just pick the Decidueye and they can never touch you and you just steal every objective. It's very good at that, and it does get played in jungle sometimes when that happens, but a lot of times they'll just, like, you know, send something like an Urshifu for the first rotation and then let, you know, the Decidueye come in and, you know, just chill in lane, maybe get a couple stacks. Probably not in pro play because they don't really allow stacks, but then the Decidueye will just take over once Urshifu is online, take over the jungle, that is. So yeah, it's a pretty good Pokemon, and I think significantly the best physical attacking A presser. All right, next up we have Cram. Cram's a weird one, man. I love Cram, but it's not great. You could talk me into it being Pikachu range, but I do think Dive Air Slash and its Unite move gives it the edge slightly. Like, Dive Air Slash is absolutely insane, great damage, great mobility, and then it's a really good Unite move. The Mage build sucks. Surf, Hurricane, like, it's fine. It's nothing like to write home about though, I don't think. But yeah, Surf is just really hard to hit, very small hitbox, and it's just kind of But all in all, I think Cram is just it's just mid. It's a good bird, but like, there are Pokemon that are better, like Gardevoir. Gardevoir is insane, one of the highest damage characters in the entire game. Borderline S tier for me. How much did it get played? Didn't get played too much, but it had a pretty high win rate when it did. So you could talk me into S, but I'm gonna keep it in A, because when you do play it in lane and solo queue, you're basically griefing. But it is one of the best junglers in the game. But I do think there are just a couple characters that are a little bit better in jungle, or not even really. I think it is probably the best attacker jungler in the game, pound for pound, probably. Just because another character we're gonna talk about here in a little bit is like more viable in lane. Yeah, I think Gardevoir is maybe the best jungler in the game for attackers, especially in solo queue. Like, it's absolutely insane how much damage this Pokemon does. Like, it's really, really good. Really good damage. So I think I could talk myself into giving Gardevoir S, but if you want to put it A, I won't argue with you. Sylveon, this is another A tier Pokemon. Got played a good amount. Hyper Voice and Mystical Fire are both extremely viable. Good Unite move to keep yourself alive. It's just very good, very strong. Espeon, absolutely insane still. Stored power is really, really, really good. That move does a ton of damage. Psy Shock, whichever. Yeah, Psy Shock. The one that got nerfed recently, the big stun one. That move is still really good. Great secure early. Good Unite move. Good Pokemon. I don't know what to say. Still very good. Delphox. Also A tier. This is another borderline S tier Pokemon for me. You could talk me into... Yeah, I as a massive Delphox enjoyer, I can't not put this character in S tier because I think it is right there with Gardevoir in terms of jungling. In solo queue specifically, it doesn't really get played in pro play all that much, but when it does get played, they play Fire Spin just because the CC is insane and the follow up on it is insane. But in solo queue, you can't really rely as much on your teammates for the follow up on your Fire Spins. But yeah, this character is still really freaking good. Mystical Fire, Flame Charge is probably the most fun build in the game. One of the best, if not the best, Unite move in the game as well. Really good damage, just being able to lock down an entire area of the map, and you have it like every 12 seconds. So yeah, very good Pokemon. Leafeon, also S tier. This is a surprise of no one. This Pokemon is still good. I believe, yeah. Okay, I'll have to figure out which move is which. Icicle Spear was still banned for NAIC, and this character still got picked an absolute ton with Icy Wind, and it was still absolutely dominant. And Icicle Spirit is still very usable and still very viable in solo queue. This Pokemon is insane, easily S tier. This is another one of those Pokemon that, like, this Pokemon evolves at level 4. Why are you playing Charizard in my game when you could just be playing Glaceon and being more useful? So, yeah. Mew is another character that got picked a ton. I was actually surprised at how much Mew we saw because Mew felt like it had fallen off in pro play. And I do think it has fallen off in solo queue. So I am going to give Mew A tier. Again, this is another Pokemon you could talk me into, you know, making it S just because of how well, like, how good a great Mew is. But yeah, this character is still insane. Great damage, good secure, good Unite move, good all throughout the game, but good mobility. Like, a good Mew will never die. If a good Mew is dying a lot, then I don't know. A good Mew will not die a lot, but if a Mew is dying a lot, that's a telltale sign that you're probably not in the game with the best of Mew player. And then next to last, before we get to the new guy, we have Chandelure, and I think Chandelure is also S tier. It's a character there that got picked the 4th most in terms of attackers, and I think this character is absolutely insane. Overheat does absurd damage. Flamethrower is also good damage, but it's harder to hit. Imprison is one of the most broken moves in the entire game. On such a short cooldown, you're just able to throw it out, stun people, and make people not be able to use their moves. I think Overheat is absolutely broken. Or not Overheat, Imprison is absolutely broken, and it's getting nerfed for a very good reason, so I'm very happy about that in an upcoming patch. So yeah, we have Chandelure firmly in the S tier, in my opinion. I think it is severely underrated by the general community, but I don't think it's not going to be for long. I've kind of been seeing it more lately, but it's about to get nerfed, so maybe it won't be seen as super OP for very long after this anyway. But yeah, I think the character is ridiculous. And then last and certainly not least, we have Blaziken, and I'm gonna put Blaziken here because it's not in the game now. Yet, but I think Blaziken's gonna be really fucking good, by the way, but he's not in the game yet, so he gets to hang out with Zarina. Yeah, we have Inteleon. So I've shared my thoughts on Inteleon pretty extensively in the videos I've made and on Twitter and in my community tab. I don't love this Pokemon. I think it is severely overrated by people. I've seen people say it is the best laner in the game. Ninetales exist, guys. Mew exists. Supporters exist. Like, what are we talking about? Defenders exist. It's not the best laner in the game. It has really good secure. Water Gun is probably the best part about this character's kit, and it's kind of pathetic considering it's its first move. But yeah, Water Gun is insane. I'll give you guys that. I think Snapshot is severely overrated. You guys see big damage number, you're like, ooh, it's broken. It do big damage. Yeah, out of every 30 shots you hit, you do really good damage. But what I do enjoy about this Pokemon, I think Acrobatics is actually pretty good mobility, and it's very good for being able to build up your passive. I think Liquidation is fine. It could use a little bit of a damage buff, and I think its Unite move is absolutely insane. I do agree that I hate that it slows you down. That's actually very annoying that you have to, like, pause for a second. But you basically turn into a faster attacking Fram turret that can move. Like, you do so much damage with your auto attacks in your Unite move. It's absolutely insane. You just sort of start shredding everything. I do think that is the best part about this character's kit. All in all, if you had to ask me, I would say Snipe Shot is borderline garbage to playable, and Liquidation slash the Unite move slash Water Gun puts it up here. So I think A-B+, middle of the road, is about the best thing I could say for Inteleon. Is that a hot take? Maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I've said it a million times. I'm not in love with this Pokemon, but the more I've played it, the more I've started to come around to it. I just don't think it's as special as people are making it out to be. And yeah, I think Snapshot is honestly terrible, but that's just me. With all of that being said, though, who is going to be our best Pokemon in the game? Who is the best of the best, or better than the best this week? I think we can all guess this. It's Umbreon. This character is broken. This character is absolutely insane. Too many stuns, too much mobility. Like, I've seen Umbreon 1v5 teams just because it legitimately cannot die sometimes. Like, even with, like, if you have 5 physical attackers trying to beat down an Umbreon, the Umbreon just won't die. Like, it's ridiculous. So I think Umbreon belongs in the best of the best category. I think it is the best Pokemon in the game currently. So play Umbreon. It's absolutely broken. But to be more accurate, don't play Umbreon because I hate it. Play Slowbro instead, because that character is really good but still beatable. That being said, though, there is the tier list. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think anything is way over or underplaced, and I will be sure to conversate with you in the comments down yonder. But I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Appreciate you guys sticking around and watching this long ass video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy.